So I thought I'd just do a short little video for one of our R9T community members by the name of Sean. He's asked an interesting question, which is how do you remove your clip-ons and put on your OEM, your original OEM bars back on your bike, which is a little bit different to what we're normally asking, but it's a really valid question, so I'm going to do my best to answer it. Now this bike here has been in an accident, so the bars are a little bit crooked to start with, but I'll do my best, see how we get on. So the first thing you need to do is to remove anything on the end of the bars, so that's mirrors or bar end bolts. Once you've taken those out, what you need to do is then focus on the throttle body itself, this throttle body here. This actually has the throttle cable inserted inside of it, and to get into there you need to undo this bolt here. Now on these bars, the bars are crooked as I mentioned, so this bolt will actually be underneath more on correctly installed bars. So once you've undone that with Torx, this throttle assembly here will come apart and you'll be able to undo the throttle cable using a small flathead screwdriver. Once you've done that, then you need to remove the actual starter button assembly. Now that can be undone by undoing a screw in here. That's a Torx, Torx 4 maybe, I think, from memory. And then what you need to do is undo these two Torx bolts here, which hold the brake assembly. So the brake reservoir and the brake lever. Those can come off. Now just as a side note, when you do put it back together on the OEM bars, you don't need to re-bleed the brakes, unless of course the brake lines have been shortened for the clip-ons, in which case you might find you've got problems with how long these brake lines are, and they're actually they're under strain when you put them on the OEM bars. So hopefully those brake lines haven't been adjusted, but that's something you need to check out. Next what we'll do is move over to the other side. On the other side, you'll need to, I've only got a few things on here like the grip, but what you'll have as well is you'll have a horn and an indicator assembly like this. What you need to do is undo the bolts in the bottom here, this little bolt in here, there's a little bolt in the end of there. You can unscrew that, and then this assembly breaks into two separate parts and comes off. And then what you need to do is also remove the clutch lever assembly the same way we did on the other side with the brake. And then on this particular grip, if you pull back the rubber here, you'll notice that there's actually a little screw, oh there it is, a little screw inside. That little screw there needs to be actually removed, and that'll allow you to pull this grip off. Now that's a Torx, so once you remove that, you can pull this right off. And then what you've got is no controls on the bars, you've just got the clip-ons. You can unscrew the clip-on bar bolts here and take the bars out on both sides. And then on the inside of the actual clip-ons, there's also bolts like you can see here. You need to undo those. Once you've got those undone, then all your assemblies are free of the actual bike. You've got no brake, no clutch, no throttle. And so now what you can do is actually prepare to take off the actual clip-on clamps. And to do that, you need to undo this steering stem nut right here. Now to undo that, what you're going to need is some electrical tape, some black or whatever electrical tape, and oh no, not that one, this one here, and you'll need a socket, a 36mm socket. The electrical tape you just put around this actual steering stem nut and along the base here to protect your motorcycle from being scratched to bits with the actual socket. You put the socket on there, and also grab yourself a breaker bar like this, something that's got a good bit of leverage. And then you can actually crack this nut, which is torqued down to, I think from memory, about 98 Newton meters of torque. And once you've undone that, you can then undo these clamp bolts here. These are torqued to 19 Newton meters, so they're pretty easy to undo. And once you've got that undone, you're ready to actually take the whole yoke assembly off the actual fork stanchions. You can pull that right off. And then once you've got that off, you're in a position to take off the clip-ons. So at that point, you've actually disassembled everything, and now you're ready to reassemble everything. So then what you need to do is just put that actual yoke back on the bike, and you need to push it down so that it's the right amount of rings underneath the top of the actual stanchion itself. And if you can give me the model and year of the bike, I can probably find that out for you. Or before you take it off, better still, just measure it with the steel ruler. Just measure that height and just put it back on the same, whether it be 10.5 mils, which I think is what it is for this. But this bike's a K21 214 model, so yours will probably be different. And then once you've put it back on and you've torqued it down to, I think it's 98 Newton meters, but I'll send you a link, or you can tell me the model and I can tell you how many Newton meters it is for that. And then once you've done that, you've got your clamp in place. All you need to do then is get your original OEM bars like we've got here, and just make sure you've got the risers underneath and you've got the clamp on top with the 4 bolts, and then make sure you've got the dowels in these little holes here, and that of course you've removed your existing covers, which I've noticed in your picture you've got a cover. Then you can screw the original bars back on there, and then you can put all of the controls and the grips back on in the reverse order that I've explained for them to be removed. So this is a pretty rough and raw video, but I hope that helps you out there. And anyway, ping us a message if you need a hand. Cheers.